Hey everyone, and welcome back to my Completionist playthrough of the Baldur's Gate Saga with SCS, and in this episode we're going to do another major fight in Shadows of Amn and face the Twisted Rune. But first let's take a look at some of the preparations I've done before the episode. When it comes to our gear, we've basically returned to how we had things set up prior to the recent changes. So for example, Imoen has her spellcasting ring back, Jaheira and Anomen don't have their fire resistance gear equipped, and I also gave the Ring of Gax to Kirinai for now, just to give her access to some short bursts of improved haste, and also to add to her armor class based setup that she has going for now, but this is going to change in the future. You also might have noticed that Senashira doesn't have her Amulet of Power equipped, and that's because Jaheira is going to be using it in the upcoming encounter, but we're going to get to more detailed explanations as we approach the fight. And now when it comes to our spells, again, we have more or less returned to our previous selections, but with some changes. So going from top to bottom, Senashira has this protection from petrification because of a beholder we're going to be fighting. Also has the minor sequencer because we are going to set up all three of her sequencers again. At level 5, we don't need 4 spell shields anymore. And when it comes to level 6, in general, all of our mages are going to have Globe of Invulnerability and protection from magical weapons. And I think that's all of the changes on Senashira. Now when it comes to Jaheira, I've made some different spell selections on her with some long-term focus. So on level 1, got rid of the last remaining minor heals here that were kept for some rest healing. But now that we have essentially 3 rings of regeneration and that Ion Stone that regenerates our hit points as well, whenever we rest or travel between areas, we're going to have very good healing. So at level 1, now we have 1 more Bless and this Doom spell, which I do have plans on using in some future encounters, but also as a general selection I think we're going to keep it, just so that whenever an opportunity presents itself, we can further debuff a target, and we're going to mostly be using it with the reduction to the saving throws of the target that it gives us, and that gives the target a -2 penalty to their saving throws, and that can be stacked with the Greater Malison for a total of -6 penalty, which is very nice. Also, I have reworked her level 3 selection, and I mean this is still Druid level 3 in Baldur's Gate, so there's not much room to work with, but I went down to just 1 Dispel Magic on her. Her caster level is so low that her Dispel Magics are not going to be too effective anyway, but I think it's worth it to keep 1 on her just to give us another source of that kind of effect. Also, I've memorized Rigid Thinking, and that was kind of a choice between that or Miscast Magic, but Rigid Thinking is more versatile. And this is just kind of a spell that we might throw out there every once in a while without any expectations, because saving throws completely negate its effect. But yeah, just for a little bit more variety, I've decided to get that. And also we have 2 copies of Cure Disease now, which is a good situational spell to have access to that removes blindness, deafness, feeble mind, and diseases. It's kind of similar to Neutralize Poison that we are going to keep still on Jaheira, but all that kind of freed up indirectly a level 4 slot on Anomen, because we are not going to have Neutralize Poison on him. And also finally on Jaheira at level 6 we have Dolorous Decay, memorized specifically for the upcoming encounter. And this is a spell that we haven't used yet, and that's because in most cases it's absolutely not worth it. But it has some advantages to it. So it's a single target spell with a very fast cast time, and that's one thing, and that's nice about it. And it also does 2 things. First off, it applies a slow effect, which is guaranteed. There is no saving throw on it. So if something is vulnerable to slow and the spell lands on them, they are going to be slowed. And the second thing it does is do poison damage over time. It does have a saving throw versus poison with a -2 penalty allowed on that, but the creature we are going to use the spell on, we don't even care about that effect at all, because the vampire we're going to cast this spell on is immune to poison. But still, we are basically looking for a reliable and fast to apply slow effect. Now on Anomen, at level 4 we are going to have negative plane protection, just 1 copy of it, just in case. The casting time on it is not too bad, so in a pinch, whenever we need it, we might want to use it, having some future fights in mind. And you know, although I don't like the spell, like I've mentioned many times, you know, it's still something that we might be able to get some value out of. Also at level 5 he's going to have Repulsed Undead, which is another spell that we have not used before, and we're going to have a decent opportunity to showcase it now. It's an anti-undead spell, of course, with no saving throw allowed, which is nice, and it works similarly to True Seeing, for example, in the fact that it stays for 1 turn, and every round it's going to inflict its effect on all of the undead creatures around Animen, pushing them away from him, giving us kind of a knockback effect, which in combination with that Dolorous Decay's slow is going to allow us to deal with a certain vampire lady. Also we have False Dawn, which is kind of like a mini Sunray that deals damage to undead and confuses them. We might get to cast that. And also on Imoen, I just wanted to point out that we are going to call upon the services of our buddy Hakashar again to provide us with some distraction and perhaps draining some spells. And I also have Bigby's Clenched Fist on her. This is not a good spell, but we're going to have a decent opportunity to show it off as well. It holds in its first round, but then as time passes, the target has an easier time to escape that effect. And yeah, not too impressive, but we are going to have a decent target for this spell. And that's basically it when it comes to Edwin's selection. There's nothing too fancy about it, just kind of we went back to what he generally had before. So now we're going to rest, refresh our spells, set up our sequencers, and then go to the Bridge District to face off against the Twisted Rune. And it's an organization that is actually present in the Forgotten Realms universe in the lore, and we're going to talk about that a little bit. But first, the minor sequencer is going to be the same we had, just mirror images and blur. The level 7 spell sequencer is going to be a little special, with a particular Elder Orb in mind. We are going to give ourselves a Spell Thrust first, and then 2 remove magics. So the way it's going to work is that Spell Thrust is going to be applied first, dispelling a potential spell immunity to Abjuration, and then the 2 remove magics are going to hit, giving us a good chance of removing the Elder Orb's physical protections. And Elder Orbs never have Globe of Invulnerability, so the spell Thrust should be effective. And in case the Elder Orb has a spell shield, we are going to dispel that first, of course, with someone else, and then use this sequencer, which should give us some good results. And her spell trigger is also going to be the same as we had in the last fight, just giving Senashira an opportunity to quickly renew her spell protections, which is very important on her. Alright, so now we can go to the Bridge District and investigate that kind of suspicious building, that in one room it had a Lich, and in the other it's going to have a teleport to the Twisted Rune's hideout. And in order for this teleportation to work, we need to have a secret key, which is a rogue stone that we've kept in Kiranai's gem bag for so long. And by the way, I am going to start collecting some particular gems for some crafting later on. But anyway, we have that rogue stone, and that is going to allow us to teleport into a different place, into a secret meeting place for the Twisted Rune. And the Twisted Rune, like I mentioned, is an actual organization in the Forgotten Realms. And just to give it a brief description of it, because it's implemented in Baldur's Gate 2 pretty well, like pretty faithfully to their profile, because it's supposed to be a very secret organization of liches, primarily, or in general, undead spellcasters. They also have some vampires with spellcasting abilities in their ranks, and some alhoons, so the illithid liches. But generally, they are liches and like high-level undead, and that's an organization that aims to influence the events in the south. Primarily it originates from Kalimshan, but also over time spread its influence more to the north to Tether and Amn, and they basically kind of pull the strings from the shadows, trying not to influence events directly, because since they are essentially immortal thanks to their undeath, they have very long-term plans, and they prefer to have time itself kind of work in their favor. And what's also cool about it is that when it comes to the secrecy of the whole organization, is that only the highest ranks in its hierarchy, so the 8 or 9 Runemasters, which are the highest leaders, and 8 or 9 depending on the time period, and 2 ranks below them, so in total it's supposed to be around 30 people, have an idea of, that they are actually working for the Twisted Rune, and that they are fulfilling the goals of that organization, and all of their lower ranked underlings and servants and agents actually are led to believe that their local leaders of their organizations that they serve in don't have any deeper associations with any higher powers and whatnot, so they don't even know that they are working for the Twisted Rune in actuality. And it's also pretty cool because we are going to meet two of the Runemasters in this fight. Actual people from the lore. And also, this was supposed to be a quest, apparently, in Baldur's Gate 2, but was never finished, never implemented in the final release. And that's actually cool, because like I mentioned many times, it's totally fine to have some things that are not 100% explained in the game, and they are supposed to be a mysterious and, you know, secretive organization. But anyway, for the longest time I thought there were absolutely no references to them in the game, but there actually are two minor references. In Throne of Ball, thanks to an innkeeper rumor that you can get, we can have them mentioned, but that's something that we're going to try to remember to explore once we get to Amkethran in Throne of Ball. And in Shadows of Amn, if you remember the Regix Heisman's quest line with the murders in the Bridge District, there are some references there, because if you remember, in the deepest bowels of his basement, he had two rune assassins with him, which are kind of like a minor reference, especially in connection to the contact, Darson Cole, that we have met in Imnesvale, with whom we can work on finishing that flesh armor that Regic was working on. And if you cooperate with him up to a certain extent, but then back out of the deal, he is going to mention that we are going to be dealt with soon for crossing the rune. It just says that, crossing the rune. So this might be, you know, a minor reference there. And since, you know, there's nothing else about this organization, of course there are plenty of theories about them perhaps being involved in the attack on Diarne's Keep, or maybe having some connections with the guarded compound in the Temple District and whatnot, but anyway, that's who they are. So first we are going to apply some long-term protections. We're not going to go like too hardcore on our buffs, but we do need to protect ourselves because this is a serious fight. Wait, here I can get some iron skins as well. And of course, as usual, we need chaotic commands. We need some protection from fire, protection from magical energy, kind of our usual stuff.
Point the sword, and I shall strike. I await your move.
Can get some spirit armor on Senashira as well. Alright, finally getting back to it. I had some interruptions here, and now it's like an hour later. But anyway, we were buffing up. Although now I'm kind of out of my sequence here. But it seems like, yeah, we have our 3 chaotic commands applied. Our protection from fire is there. Spirit armor is on the way. Alright, so I think we only have the remaining chaotic commands and the protection from magic, yeah, left to reapply.
I hear you well enough.
So we should be done in a couple of rounds here. And after the chaotic commands are done, we are going to cast some Death Wards, but only 2, I think, only on Kirinai and Senashira, because they are going to be in a close proximity to the Elder Orb that we're going to have to fight here. And also, speaking about it, reminds me that we need to apply this protection from petrification on Senashira as well. Alright, and that should be all of our general buffs. Now we need to concentrate on our mages and give them a round of spell shields. Also having in mind that the Beholder, of course, has anti-magic ray that we want to protect our mages from. And Senashira is also going to get spell deflection, and then we're going to have a round of mirror images. And before we apply haste and our globes of invulnerability and all that, we also need to summon that Hackashar, and we're also going to have to reapply our Remove Fear, because the Hackashar, even though it has 100 magic resistance, that is not going to protect him from that fear effect that liches have going constantly, and we don't want him to be running around in fear and ruining our whole strategy here. Alright, now we can haste everyone. Then apply our globes. Then spell immunity to abjuration, and then we're only going to have some finishing touches left. Alright, Animan already is going to apply his Repulsed Undead, so that he enters the fight with that effect already going, and we're also going to do the same thing with Imoen's True Sight. Also we're going to hide in shadows on Kiranai, not for the purposes of really doing any backstabs, but just so that she doesn't get targeted immediately. And Edwin is going to summon Fleshy, our Flesh Golem. Alright, and now we are ready. We can position ourselves correctly here.
Without doubt. What you got?
Yeah. Oh, all right. Very well.
Yes, it is done.
Alright, something like that. As you could see, that there was a trail of fire culminating on the stable, and now we have to wait until a certain guy appears. Here's a lich telling us to stop. You have power, chained, but it is not of my giving. Do you know where you are? Of course, we don't really have a great idea as to where exactly we got teleported, but he notes that we had the secret key, the Rogue Stone, that gave us access to wherever this is. And of course, they're not going to allow us to leave peacefully, and our battle against the Twisted Rune will have to commence. And anyway, before we actually talk about all of them, I'll let them appear first, although Animan already is going to start casting Storm of Vengeance into this northeastern part of the battlefield. And now, alright, there they are. So there's going to be 5 of them. First we have Shangalar, the Lich, and that's a really similar name to Shandalar from Baldur's Gate 1, from Olgoth's Beard. But his full name in the lore is Shangalar the Black, and he actually has a decent backstory. He used to be a tiefling wizard, and after his victorious battle against 2 black dragons, he sustained or suffered from like mortal wounds that forced him to turn into a lich in order to avoid death. And in the game he is a level 29 lich, kind of similar to all of the liches that we have faced off against in recent times. And of course we have the Hackashar here and the Flesh Golem to kind of occupy his attention for a little while. Waste some of his rounds before we are ready to confront him directly. He is also one of the Runemasters of the Twisted Rune. And the second Runemaster present in the encounter is this vampire lady here, Shyressa. And she is basically an ancient vampire, draining 4 levels per hit and being able to go into stealth, and having access to the whole array of vampiric abilities, but there's nothing else interesting about her. In the lore, actually, she is capable of casting spells. In fact, some spells that she invented herself. Some fire-based ones that actually produce dark flame that is hard to notice during the night, which is pretty cool. Also we have Revanek here. If you remember Revan from Knights of the Old Republic, well, here we have Revanek. And he is much upgraded in SCS, actually, because in the unmodded game, due to a bug or a horrible oversight, he actually has no gear whatsoever. And here he is a level 19 fighter with full equipment given by SCS, and he is still the weakest link out of the whole group, but he can be a nuisance because he has a crossbow and he has bolts of lightning, and he can be pretty proficient in interrupting our spellcasters, so we are going to have to deal with him as well. Then we have Lyanne, a high-level mage wielding the iconic Staff of the Magi there, and we're going to talk about the item after the fight. This is going to be our main reward for doing this whole thing. But in the unmodded game she is level 18, in SCS she's level 25, you know, a standard, very high-level SCS mage, not to be underestimated here. And finally we have Vaxel, the Elder Orb, who is a level 20 beholder with all of their rays available to him, and of course access to spells he also has. So anyway, what we're going to do here is we're going to unleash another, or not another, but a cloud kill onto Shangalar to be another thing he has to kind of contend with. Another thing to make his life a little bit more difficult here, and have him occupied by some other stuff. Now, this Shyressa is going to be the target of our Dolorous Decay, which is going to slow her, and then coupled with that Repulsed Undead that Animan has going, we should be able to kind of keep her from being problematic to our other party members. Also, this is why, of course, Jaheira has the Amulet of Power, making her immune to level drain, and that's also why Animan has the Mace of Disruption equipped. Not so much to really fight with it. I really want to avoid any lucky instant kills on our undead opponents here, but he needs to be protected. Then on Edwin we're going to wait a little bit to see what's going to happen with Vaxel. Kiranai is going to already activate her improved haste from the Ring of Gax. And yeah, let's actually see what the protections are on Vaxel and on Lyanne. We already have the protections on Shangalar, who has Spell Turning, Spell Shield, and Immunity to Abjuration. Alright, so let's give them a second. Alright, there they go. And now let's check them out. So Vaxel has also Immunity to Abjuration and Spell Turning, but no Spell Shield, which is great. He has Stone Skin and Protection from Magical Weapons. And Lyanne, of course, as always, she has Spell Trap. That's, of course, coming from her Staff of the Magi. We are going to be able to cast that spell from the item soon. She has Spell Shield. She also has Immunity to Abjuration, so everyone who can actually has Spell Immunity to Abjuration. And yeah, so Spell Shield, Spell Trap, and that. Alright, so now we are going to unleash our Spell Sequencer onto Vaxel to dispel his Spell Immunity to Abjuration and give us 2 remove magics to hopefully dispel his physical protections. And unfortunately Shyressa is already being kind of problematic here. Repulsed Undead ticked, so it's going to kind of knock her back, I think, to the west, and I was counting on her staying in that part. But yeah, she is slowed here, and we are going to already have Jaheira work on her. Okay, our Storm of Vengeance should be coming online soon, and that's of course to interrupt Lyanne. Let's have our mages try to get them safe. And now let's test if our Spell Sequencer from Senashiro is effective. Alright, it seems like it was not. So that's why we have waited with Edwin here for a moment, just so that he can unleash his own triple remove magic Spell Sequencer and hopefully finally dispel the protections on Vaxel, because we have to get rid of him right away. Alright, Storm of Vengeance is going to be online. And now I think we might want to go in this direction. Shyressa is kind of aggressive here. That remove magic might remove our slow on her. We're going to have to get Kiranai out of there. Alright, so our remove magics hit, and we can get to Vaxel. That's fantastic. We just need to apply, although we probably can't yet, apply this protection from magical weapons on Senashira to make her immune to level drain. But anyway, you know what? Animan, get back. Now we're going to prepare to cast Power Word Blind on Ravanic, just so he cannot fire his crossbow and be a nuisance to our spellcasters. We need +3 weapons to get to Shyressa. Anyway, let's just try to kind of get some space from her. Alright, Vaxel actually has a contingency with protection from magical weapons, so we would have to remove magic on him again, and perhaps that is going to be successful. We'll see. We are going to apply protection from magical weapons on Senashira, and we are going to use Avoid Death on Kiranai to make her immune to level drain, and we are going to switch to normal weapons on our Kensai ladies here, and still work on Vaxel. We should be able to get through to him because he had his stone skins dispelled, so even with normal weapons we are going to be able to get through to him. We just have to make sure that Shyressa is not going to be too problematic for us here. And actually, you know, since Ravanic is going to be under the effect of blindness, we don't want this remove magic anymore. We also wanted to check if Lyanne has been poisoned by our Storm of Vengeance. Seems like the electricity damage can get through to her, but it seems like she is not poisoned yet, at least. And if she gets poisoned, that's going to be fantastic. We're not going to waste our time on her, but if she doesn't, we are going to have to devote some anti-magic spells onto her. Alright, and Shangalar is busy, so this is going decently well. Alright, so Shyressa summons some stuff, and we really need that protection from magical weapons. Alright, Shyressa actually got knocked back. Did you see that from the that Repulsed Undead? She actually got knocked back pretty far away. Alright, so we don't have to work on that, work on our protections just yet, especially since we still cannot act yet. Our previous rounds have to end. And basically what we're going to do on Animan, we are going to summon an additional distraction for Lyanne. Let's get a aerial servant there for her, and let's get that.
Speak your mind.
Let's actually get that pesky Elder Orb killed. Even Jaheira is going to assist in that, and I think now we actually do have to get our protections here because Shyressa is operational once again, and she is getting close. Alright, so we do have Avoid Death on Kirinai. We just need that protection from magical weapons. And this is still going, but at least Vaxel is now dead. Alright, and that's huge. Now we can get back to our magical weapons. And on Jaheira as well. And now we're going to focus our attention on Shyressa because she has annoyed me enough in this fight. Really nothing went as it should with her.
What do you want? All right.
And I think since Lyanne is still not poisoned, of course this is all in like the time span of like 2 rounds or something, but let's actually give her another cloud kill to occupy her with. Actually, since we're going to have that aerial servant, he might get a little mad at us for doing that. Let's actually start casting that Big B's Clenched Fist. Our effects here are going to kind of overlap, but Edwin is going to actually, instead of using Blind, he is going to use Flame Arrow at Shyressa. Right, now we have our protections on Senashira as well, so we are going to try to direct as much damage as we can onto her, and Big B's Clenched Fist is going to hold Ravanic. He is our target for that spell in this fight, and kind of make him... alright, she is not... Oh right, she is poisoned. Alright, sick. Really good. So now we basically have Lyanne neutralized quite heavily over there. We don't really have to care about her all that much. Now we just need to... Alright, Shyressa is dead already. I think you were too slow with your flame arrow there, Edwin. In general, you've been quite slow this encounter for some reason. Alright, let's actually get rid of Ravanic with our fighters, and let's start working on Shangalar's protections here. Alright, now he's held. All of our attacks against him are going to automatically hit, and it's going to be great. We also can switch to our Flail of Ages and now use Anomen to assist with the damage as well. And then Imoen is going to assist even further with our Dispels on Shangalar. Yeah, and that Aerial Servant can serve as a distraction onto Lyanne. Alright, boom. We have dealt a lot of damage over there, and we are going to have to use another Dispel on Senashira now. Yeah, his spell shield is now dispelled. Imoen is going to remove his spell turning, and then another dispel is going to remove his spell immunity to abjuration, and then we're going to be able to breach him. So Edwin is going to get ready for breach. Our fighters are going to... You know what? Just haste yourself quickly here, because you are really slow without Boots of Speed and without haste. Anyway, Pierce Magic is underway, and soon we are going to be able to breach him. And already start casting that, actually. He did manage to get a Fallen Planetar operational, though. And, of course, the Planetar does have that instant death property. But we do have Death Ward still on Kirinai, right? Right, we do have that. So we need to get in there. We need to get Imoen out of there. Same with Anomen. And Jaheira is going to stay here. Lyanne died. We can have our Aerial Servant be productive somewhere else. And once Senashira is done casting the Ruby Ray, she is going to have to assist also with the Ruby, with the Death Ward. She is going to assist against that Planetar. And actually, Imoen, you can make yourself immune to magical weapons. I'm going to need that. Alright, the Fallen Planetar, the only thing she was able to do so far was to cast that Globe of Blades. She can remove magic, and she can dispel with her attacks, so we have to be... we have to pay close attention to Kirinai's buffs here, if she gets dispelled or not. And we are going to prepare Jaheira near Shangalar.
I hear it shall be done.
What do you want this way?
Alright, Shangalar now is breached. How's that planetar doing? Badly injured. Now Edwin is going to make himself safe and cast that protection from magic weapons. Alright, we still have our Death Ward in there. Jaheira's attacks have no effect because Shangalar's contingency triggered. And we are going to use Imoen, who is now safe from that planetar's attacks, and we are going to breach Shangalar again. He seems to be pretty interested in attacking some of our summons here. I was actually pretty surprised that his summon planetar was not drained from him. But anyway. Alright, that planetar is dealt with. Very good. Now we have to prepare with our other characters. And once our breach hits, we are going to be able to finally finish it. I know we are staying in the cloud kill, but this is really a minor problem for us here. It's a much bigger problem for Shangalar, interrupting his spells there. And actually it interrupted our breach, so what am I even saying? You know what? We are going to have Edwin properly position himself and cast that breach. I was about to use a scroll there, but why use a scroll when we can have a nice clean cast there from Edwin from outside of the cloud kill. The problem was that I've ordered Imoen to cast breach on Shangalar when she was kind of in the south here somewhere, so she basically, you know, only was in line of sight of Shangalar being very close here in the effect of the cloud kill. And I don't want to dispel the cloud kill with Zone of Sweet Air because it's still doing us some good things, interrupting Shangalar. Alright, now we should be good finally, and boom! 50,000 experience for Shangalar. Alright, great. So that's the Twisted Rune. A very fun fight, although Shyressa really was not... did not act how I wanted her to act. As you can see, Ravanic here had a full plate. He has a heavy crossbow +2, a two-handed sword +2, and some bolts of lightning. Alright, Shangalar has the cash, and from Vaxel we have an eye that we're going to have to use here in this cauldron. And this is going to activate the machinery that is going to be able to take us out of here. Alright, and now let's also, as a final touch, inspect our Staff of the Magi, which is of course the main reward from here. As you can see, one of its properties is missing here, and that's due to the SCS component that deactivates its property to make you invisible immediately, but we're going to get to that. It gives you a +2 bonus to your armor class, saving throws, and gives you immunity to charm and protection from evil. Also, when it strikes, it casts Dispel Magic at level 30, much like Karsamir does. Also has a special spell that is both a fireball and lightning bolt, dealing like maximum damage for these spells at the same time. And then it can cast Spell Trap once per day, which is of course a very potent single target spell protection. And then it also strikes as a +5 weapon, so in certain situations it can be useful for that purpose as well. And of course, you know, you can hit with it, much like with Karsamir. With its +5 enchantment you can bypass Mantle or even Improved Mantle, and then with the Dispel Magic you can dispel those effects. But anyway, normally the Staff of Magi has this property that can make you immediately invisible, and that's just way too powerful. That's why we have this component from SCS installed, because what it means is that you know, you can just having the weapon equipped here, you can just whenever you need, you can just switch to another weapon, even during paused status, and then switch back to the Staff of the Magi and regain invisibility. So whenever that status of yours gets dispelled or removed, you can just immediately reapply it. You can avoid any spell, or almost any spell, in that way. You can avoid, you know, you can get out of trouble very, very easily with that, and we don't want that. So that's why we have removed that property, and we're going to give the staff to Edwin now. And yeah, he's going to enjoy the benefits of the Staff of the Magi, and sometimes we're probably going to cast a Spell Trap on Senashiro with it, but we'll see how it's going to go. Anyway, this is going to be it for this episode. I hope you enjoyed our battle against the Twisted Rune, and I'll see you in the next episode.